Happy Wednesday. We are continuing our study in the first verses of Colossians chapter 1. Today we've come to verse 10. On Monday I talked about the fact that ideas have consequences and encouraged you to be a good steward of your thoughts. On Tuesday, yesterday we looked at the idea that Paul wants people to grow, and so he's praying for them, and I talked about the opportunity that we have to pray for others. Today I want to reflect on the idea of knowing God. So this comes up in verse 10, the last few words in verse 10 of chapter 1. One of the 5 things that he wants people to sort of have as part of the life that we're being called to is to grow in the knowledge of God. So several times so far I've referenced the fact that there are these false teachers that seem to be the reason that Paul is writing. We don't know who the false teachers are. Some say they're the Judaizers. They're a common bad guy. They're the ones that are religious, saying that in order for a Gentile to become a Christian, you first have to become a Jew. There's all these Jewish rules and regulations. So if you're religious and got to think that you are because you're listening to a devotional, that makes you sort of a religious person. So religious people, like the older brother in The Prodigal Son, we tend to think we're a little bit better. Look at me, I'm doing a devotion. How spiritual am I? Yeah, that's a Judaizer. The second group were the Gnostics, and those were the people that thought that you were saved by secret knowledge, secret information. And then there was another group, the proto-Gnostic Judaizers. And they were the ones that sort of thought that you were saved by secret knowledge that you got by being religious. So some of these people, we can read some of the things that they were writing, and they thought that Moses was holding out on them, that when he'd been up the top of Mount Sinai, that he got more information from God than he let on. But there's people that knew this. Conspiracy theories are not new. There's people that knew this, and through secret organizations, you could get access to this information. So Paul is attacking all of this head on, right? He's saying, no, you know God through Jesus, you know God through his word, you know God through prayer. So now when we talk about knowing God, there's a couple distinctions that we make here. There's knowing God in a saving way, and there's knowing God in sort of a sanctifying way. I'm talking more about this right now, about growing in our redemption. Another distinction to make, and the one I want to just emphasize today, is the difference between knowing about something and sort of personally knowing. For instance, I know about Winston Churchill, but I didn't know him. Or it's possible that you could know about bicycles. You could know all about bicycles. You could know more about bicycles than Lance Armstrong. You could have a PhD in bicycles or the physics behind bicycles, but not know how to ride a bike, right? There's a difference between the knowledge about something and actually knowing something experientially. Soren Kierkegaard said that when we die, there's going to be 2 doors that we get. This is a joke, by the way. When we die, there's 2 doors, and you got to pick the door that you walk through. One says heaven, and the other one says lectures on heaven. And he said, I've met people that are going to choose lectures on heaven. So obviously, you can know God, or you can know about God. There's lots of people that know about God, but knowing God in this transformational way is what we are called to do. I've been struck for the last year by this observation. I don't even remember who made it, but so as you may know, the church is referred to as the bride of Christ. Jesus is the groom, the church is the bride. And marriage is this metaphor for the union between the church and Christ. And that always had sort of struck me as odd. Like, okay, well, marriage is really about marriage. Man and a woman, marriage, that's what marriage is. But it's weird sort of that they would make this allusion to the church and Jesus. And especially when you look at some of the words that get used here about knowing God. It's the same word, Hebrew word, yadah, about intimacy in marriage. And then, but the takeaway, the thing that sort of really slowed me down a little bit is to realize somebody wrote and said, look, today we think it's weird that marriage would be used as a metaphor for Christ and the church. In light of eternity, what we're going to think is weird is that marriages, earthly marriages, were a metaphor for the union between Christ and the church. We're not just supposed to know about God. We're to experience God. Paul is calling us forward to that. If you would say you don't know God in that way, it's a product of asking, it's a product of praying, it's a product of listening. I've got no secrets for you here, but that's what Paul's calling us to. Have a good day.